Welcome, everyone, to the fourth edition of the Colorado Society of Association Executives podcast series. We're excited to have you listening. And today, the topic is After the Fallout, Moving Forward with Confidence and Humor. And we're super excited today to have our guest today, Sam Albrecht. And I'm going to introduce Sam in a minute, but Sam's been a very active member of CSAE and played a huge role in our success, and his participation has brought great benefit to many of our members. So welcome, Sam. We're glad to have you here today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about Sam. Sam is currently the county manager for Elbert County. He's been there since 2017. Prior to that, Sam was also the director of membership with the Cattlemen's Association. Sam recently received the Rising Star Award from the Association of Colorado County Commissioners, which is a pretty cool award to get. And also, Sam was the architect of the first strategic plan for Elbert County, which is a big responsibility, but that's also a very cool accomplishment. Sam's a former officer in the Air Force. He holds a degree in aerospace engineering and a master's degree in business administration, and also has held his CAE from the American Society of Association Executives since 2000. So obviously we've got somebody here that knows quite a bit about everything. And, the topic today and why we picked Sam was just, we felt that Sam would be able to share some really interesting perspectives and takes on not just the last 12 months, but I think in his profession and the things that he's experienced, but, moving forward with confidence and humor. And, we're about 12 months in and hopefully getting ready to get out of this whole COVID mess. And we thought Sam would be able to provide some interesting perspective on many things. Sam, so you're doing good today?
Doing great.
Awesome. Good to hear. So, Sam, let me ask you a few questions that I think will lead to some interesting comments. As we all know, the last 12 months has been very difficult for everyone, but particularly for association executives, people running organizations, people in positions such as yours. What have you found that? By the way, everybody, I want to tell you that Sam's got a smile on his face, so that's always a good sign in these times. But Sam, what would you share with us that you found has worked for you personally in the last 12 months or in your time there to keep you focused, keep you moving forward, and keep you confident?
It's tough in today's times. I think that with COVID and the drama in politics, it's been really, really tough for everybody and stressful. So one of the things that you don't know, Bob, is that I'm also the lead for the Elbert County COVID emergency response team. So I've been living this daily since the middle of March, when we declared, the state and the county declared a state of emergency. Daily meetings at 9:00, 7 days a week, till later in the year when we just started going to 4 or 5 times a week for the daily meetings. I think that the thing that has kept me going the most is early on I heard that this is going to be a marathon and not a sprint. We are going to be here for a while. I still think we're going to be here for a while until we get vaccines rolled out and vaccines to kids, and we're just going to have to deal with it. So part of that is just realizing that, sometimes you come across in life things that are not just a quick, let's get this done, put it to bed and it's gone. It's going to be with us for a little bit. So just pacing yourself in that. The second thing is, sometimes you just got to smile. I remember when I was first started, we had 3 cases that we knew. We got an email from our dispatch that there were 3 cases in Elbert County, but they never showed up on the state database. And trying to get the state they showed up in Douglas County because they were up in Parker, which flows over into Elbert County.
Sure.
It took me 2 weeks to fight with the state to get those things put into Elbert County, so we had active cases. Now I'm not sure why I wasted all that time, but we got plenty of cases that happened organically themselves. But you just got to look at things with humor every now and then, and just roll with the flow.
Well, Sam, and I apologize that I didn't include that in your bio, because that's quite a responsibility to be heading up that team. And obviously, you were leading, showing people where you need to go and things that need to get done. How'd you do that? And people must have been scared, and people must have been terrified that they were going to get the virus, et cetera. What were some things that you did that just kind of helped you navigate your team through all of this?
You know, that leadership in that team and setting the tone in that team was very important. We rolled in the sheriff, one of our elected county commissioners, our emergency manager, our public health director, who had only started on January 2nd when all this hit. We rolled all that together, and that team meshed well, and we set about solving problems with limited resources out here. We're surrounded by some pretty big counties. We called in favors where we needed to, and the state was fairly supportive in helping us out where they could. And we just got through it. Everything that was new was a challenge. People were scared. They're still scared.
Yeah.
You know, I have staff that's very concerned. I have staff that are high risk, and we want to take care of them. They're our most important asset. We made it clear that to all our staff that they're our most important asset, and that we would do whatever we could to help them, as well as the rest of the citizens of the county.
Sure. And what a growing county you're in.
Yeah. You know, I have one other aside to that. You know, I tell people we have 28,000 people in Elbert County and 30,000 cows. And at some point in time, that's going to cross. And there are days that I like those 30,000 cows better, because they don't complain about their taxes, they don't complain about their roads, and they don't complain about their neighbors. But, you know, they also don't vote. Yep. So they're the elected officials make sure I keep on task with taking care of the 28,000 residents that we have.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you can figure out how to get a cow registered to vote, let me know, because I'll jump on that bandwagon too.
Didn't they try that recently?
No, well, there's been some animals that have been elected as mayors around the country. So right. We lived in Vermont for quite a while, and I think last time I heard there might have been a cow that got elected to the mayor role. So not sure, but that's Vermont, you know. And the saying in Vermont is, "I'm a Vermonter. I do what I want to," and they live to it. So Sam, you know, the first time I met you, I remember, and I mean this sincerely, it was a pleasure to sit next to you at lunch. You know, sometimes when you go to events like that, you're like, oh God, please let me sit next to somebody that's going to be enjoyable for the next 60 minutes. But, you know, you're kind of known for your keen sense of humor. And I'm not going to ask you to tell us any jokes. You're certainly able to do that. But all kidding aside, how do you think humor has helped us to get through what we've got through? And you know, does it put a different perspective on things? And how do you balance the right time to instill humor in a situation versus not? Any thoughts on that?
Well, you know, it's when you're addressing a very serious topic, you've got to take that into account. I think humor is really good about in building relationships. So if you're setting up a team or you're at lunch with some people, you know, I can always roll out a humorous story from my past, whether it's a previous association experience or time with JT and some of the experiences we've had coming through as a board member for CSAE and a conference chair for CSAE, and she's been really great to work with over the years. You know, so it's just I think it's an easy way to open doors for relaxed conversations.
Well, yeah, well put. And I think you're right. There is a time and a place for everything. So, Sam, you went from working for Cattlemen's Association and some others. I know you had your own association consulting work. Now you're working in a governmental role for Elbert County. Tell us about any similarities or differences, and what skills and best practices did you develop in the nonprofit association world that you've been able to kind of move over with your work at Elbert County?
So, yeah, you know, when it's interesting, when I left Cattlemen and started looking for something different, I saw this position open up, and I live in Elbert County, so it was caught my eye fairly quick. And as I looked at it, I've always looked for, in any position that I move to, the similarities and the experience I can bring to the table and how I can help, and how weird will it be. And so this one, they've got elected officials, which I assumed were like board members, and they've got residents, which I assumed were like members, and they had a budget, which I assumed was like our budget. But then when I got here, it was all a little different, and it had a little different flavor to it. The biggest thing was having 3 county commissioners that I report to sitting across the hall from me, and being here full time. I mean, they are here from 7:30 to 4:30. And we're a 4-day work week, 4 days a week. And so having all 3 of them is a lot different than a once a week phone call with your president and once a month phone call with your board, or and twice a year annual meeting, where you have a full day board meeting with the full board. It's a lot different. Citizens are a lot different. Every association, every membership group has a small segment of people, but it's all voluntarily that they've joined. Citizens look at government a little bit different.
Sure.
And then the finances are just totally different. You've got fund accounting, you've got government accounting is different from nonprofit accounting in very many ways. So, but I'm adaptable, I'm flexible, and I was able to get it all up to speed. And then just their real need, as we went through the interview process, was help us look to the future. They know that Elbert County is going to grow. They know that they've got a plan for that point where there's more people than there are cows. And how do we continue to provide services, which is the same as every association.
Sure.
They should. I tell people that I still talk to colleagues that say, when I ask them, how much time is your board and you spending on tactical versus strategy? You should be looking at 80% strategic thinking and strategic organization and strategic management, and 20% operational and tactical, and so should your board. And that's where I was able to jump in with both feet, finish up. They handed me a stack of about 20 pages of notes that they had thought about as far as a strategic plan, and said, hey, can you pull this together in a month? And I did. And so we're still working off that strategic plan right now.
Very nice. Very good. Well, I know when you got the award, I read a few comments from commissioners, and they were very complimentary. So it looks like you've got a good relationship going up there. And it's always fun to be in a county that's growing, right? I mean, that new tax base, new revenues, et cetera, and some pretty exciting things going on. So, Sam, earlier you mentioned about the vaccines and the vaccinations. And I think that has been, for a lot of people that I've spoken to, certainly for me personally, that's been probably I won't call it the light at the end of the tunnel, because I think we got a ways to go. But when it comes to things to feel good about and be confident about, certainly the vaccines and what that potentially could do for us, it could be a big game changer. How do you think, whether it's in the business world or in your Elbert County population, how do you think that's going to change people's attitudes, behaviors, confidence, et cetera? What do you think?
That's a really good question, Bob. I think that it's a spectrum, okay? It's a spectrum from where people are not going to wear masks, don't want the vaccine, or want to be first in line for the vaccine, to people who are scared of the vaccine. You've got all shades of gray in between there. I don't know that we have figured out what our new normal is going to be, or what it's going to be like after this. We've got variants popping up around the world. I like to be a glass half full. I think we'll get to herd immunity at some point in time. But I talk to my family and my friends, and it's like, Douglas County just went back to school in a hybrid form for middle school and high school in a hybrid formula. And there's really no vaccines for kids that are approved yet, right? So, we kid about those being little disease vectors popping around and sharing it amongst their friends and bringing it back to their families and bringing it back to the sensitive people that they have in their own household. Just a little aside, we got my wife's grandmother's 92, lives at home alone in Denver. She got on the Kaiser Permanente list for a vaccine. She's number 56,615.
Wow.
It's going to take a while, and she's
Yep.
92. I think we're all hopeful, and certainly not trying to squash that hopefulness. I think we've all got to have that future to look forward to, but we're going to be living with this a while. So that's that marathon thing again too. So, my folks live in Alabama, and you might have detected a little bit of Southern accent. It's not Southern Colorado, it's Alabama. And we're going to go see them. We haven't seen them in a year and a half. My folks are aged. They're both eligible for the vaccine, got it. They're getting their second shot on Monday. We'll give them a few more weeks to build up that full immunity, and then we're going to go see them.
Nice.
So you got to get on with living life. You got to get on with things that are important to you. And at the base of it all, what keeps me going is family. My wife, 2 kids, my parents, my wife's family, that just keeps us going.
So there's been people talk a lot about the silver linings in everything we've gone through in the 12 months, and the one I always jump to is my 2 dogs have never been happier that my wife and I are around 24/7 to let them dictate our lives 24 hours a day. Any silver linings in the last 12 months that you can think of that have impacted you or the county or your team?
I don't say it a lot, but what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right? There are silver linings. I think that we have, myself and my family, really had a better understanding of how important we are to family. We've made it very clear how important our staff are to us here at the county. We've had great flexibility with not having to close the county because of COVID. We've kept everything open. We've got the only drive-through Department of Motor Vehicles in the state. We had people coming over here from Boulder and Denver for wedding licenses when they couldn't get them. We have been open every single day of this. Now it's by appointment only, but we feel confident and satisfied and fairly pleased with what we've been able to do for our residents and those coming over here, right? And now we're hoping that our neighbors will pay that back. We don't have a big public health department. We don't have a county health nurse. We're depending on Tri-County Health and the hospitals around us in surrounding counties to vaccinate our people. We can get a clinic or a vaccine clinic in here once a month maybe, but the rest of it is going to be up to our neighbors to help us out, and they're willing to do that. So the cooperation across teams, across counties, across around the state, I think has been very good as a silver lining, and I think helps me get up again in the morning.
Yeah, acts of kindness, I think, have certainly been one thing that's come out. So Sam, any good stories? I certainly don't want to get you in any trouble with your bosses, but any good stories or any situations where humor and laughing? I mean, it's a proven fact that laughing is good for us physically and mentally. But can you think of anything that's happened in the last 12 months that you just kind of looked around the room and everybody got a good chuckle out of the situation?
Oh, I laughed a little bit at my emergency manager when he we ordered about a year's supply of PPE, professional or protective equipment, right?
Yeah.
Mask, gloves, Tyvek suits, the whole thing. And then he came back and he said, okay, now I need a shipping container to store it all, because when it all shows up, we're going to be really concerned about where it goes. And I said, okay, fine. And we were getting CARES Act money and we were trying to get it all spent. Then he came back and said, oh, by the way, I've got to insulate it and I've got to put an electric and it's got to be temperature controlled. And I said, okay. And
that's funny. You mentioning that reminds me, when everybody couldn't get gloves, right? The rubber gloves. And I think it was this September, the doorbell rang, and it seems like Amazon comes here every day. Doorbell rang and my wife picked up this box. It looks like it had been run over by a truck about 40 times. and we looked at it, and it was from Mexico. And you always kind of know if you got things outstanding coming from Amazon, but I'm like, I don't have anything outstanding. And so we finally look, and it was rubber gloves from Mexico that we ordered in April, that just arrived in September. So we kept that box. That's kind of a something that keeps us chuckling all the time. So Sam, last thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap up here, a little bit more on a serious note. Mental health issues were significant prior to COVID. They've always been significant, but it's just simply documented that the last 12 months have created some really difficult situations, whether they're financial situations or marital or parental or work or whatever. People are under a lot of challenges from mental health issues. What advice might you share with us today to help us stay in a good place, in a positive place? What are you doing in your life? What are you and your wife doing in your life that's kind of keeping you going? And you said earlier, you wake up in the morning every day and that keeps you going. But what are some other things you could share with our listening audience today that might be helpful to them?
The mental health piece of that and the stress levels that we undergo right now are very serious. And you did a good job of describing that. We've seen that at the county level. We've seen it, and so we work closely with our Human Services Division and the Sheriff's Office and victims advocates, and with our nonprofits here in the county, the charitable organizations, the food banks, the Fire Foundation, the Elbert County Community Outreach Organization that's helping people in need pay rent, eat, and just take care of themselves, right? Personally, I see it in my kids. School-age kids are another big segment of that's really concerning. We see it in my wife and I's own life as we deal with everything that's going on around us. At the end of the day, you just need to be thankful for what you've got, help those in need as a community. I do a lot of volunteering for scout organizations. Both my kids are in scouts, and we had a couple scouts that needed some service hours to help out to get them to the next rank. So we put together something out at Peaceful Valley Scout Ranch, which is here in Elbert County, and we thought, we'll get 4 or 5 kids out there, and we ended up with over 40 people. We had to get special permission from the county, which was fairly easy to do because it's Elbert County. I have a little bit of pull here and there. We got 40 people out there wood chipping and clearing brush from last year's storms. And those kids really needed that time together as a troop, as a group. And so I would say, weigh your risk, weigh what you can do in the community, get out there if you can, and make sure the others are getting out there. But it really is. It starts at the family level, community level, county level, state level. Just try to be aware of what's going on and help out where you can.
Well, Sam, thank you very much for spending time with us today, sharing some of your insights, some of your experiences. I know that our listeners will definitely enjoy it and benefits. So we appreciate your time. You've been listening to the CSA podcast series, Best Minds and Associations. This podcast and others will be posted on the CSAE website, which is csae.org. So we encourage you to check it out and listen to the other podcasts we have available. Sam, thanks again for your time. Any last thoughts you want to share with us?
No, come on out to Elbert County and be sure and speed because we need the revenue.
There we go. You heard it. Speed and spend money in Albert County. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. You've been listening to the CSA podcast series, Best Minds and Associations.